Hi guys, my name's Harry and I'm a designer. Today I'm going to be doing my industrial design 7 questions challenge. So I know that I'm a little bit late to this. A lot of other creatives have done this already. I've been waiting for a rainy day, and as per classic British weather, today is a rainy day, so I thought, let's go for it. So I'd like to start this by saying that I'm probably going to do this a little bit differently to some of the other ones that you've seen. I am still a design student. I'm about to go on a placement in London next week, in fact. So a lot of these answers are going to come from a perspective of a student who's still in design education. Might be useful to some people that are thinking about going into design, or might be interesting for some industry professionals to see what it's like these days. But hopefully it's useful, maybe just a bit interesting, a bit more insight into where I come from, how I got into industrial design, and what I'm like as a designer as well. So let's get into it. So I've made a list here of all the questions. I assume that everyone doing this challenge answers the same questions because I've literally just taken them from someone else's video. I'm going to leave a link or a few links to some of the other ones that have been done I found quite interesting, but if you literally just search industrial design 7 questions on YouTube, so many come up, and that's great. So great. So question 1. Industrial design is a fairly uncommon field. How did you discover it? So I was quite lucky that growing up I've been surrounded by creative people. So my dad is a graphic designer. There are other people in my family that are artists or involved in the automotive industry somehow. Also got carpenters and people like that as well. So, you know, through school, art and design were just something that I really enjoyed and that I was pretty good at as well. So yeah, I always studied design and art at school. And then when I moved into 6th form, I studied maths, art, fine art that is, and product design. Product design at A-level was a bit more technical. It was a bit more about the manufacturing, which was great. It gave me a good head start when coming to university on that sort of thing. But I was never taught to sketch, never did any marker rendering or taught at 6th form, none of that. So that was really what I did off of my own initiative. In art, however, I was really interested in the involvement of using technology to create art. I was never really like a realistic painter, or I was never really interested in sort of the classic mediums. Of course, I had a respect for them, but it's never something that I really did. I was more interested in digital painting, or sort of painting on an iPad, or involving technologies such as laser cutting, 3D printing in my artwork. Which was pretty cool. The teachers didn't really like it, I don't think, but in the end I did pretty well. And yeah, that really just fueled sort of an interest of merging art and design and engineering everything, which ultimately is what I think industrial design is in many ways. So from that, I had a look around universities and soon discovered that industrial design is a course that they teach at Loughborough, which is where I go. And speaking to some of the lecturers on open days about sketching, and that really got me excited about industrial design and pursuing that as a career path. Yeah, really just that's how I got here. It's always felt like a natural progression through art and then engineering, and then all the way through to becoming an industrial designer, hopefully. At no one point have I really had to question what am I doing with my life, which I guess is fortunate. Yeah, it's always been a natural progression, and here I am, and I'm still learning and still going. So yeah. So question 2, how do you describe your job to someone who doesn't know about industrial design? So I'm going to change that to how describe your course to someone who doesn't know about industrial design. I guess when you're talking at family gatherings or meeting people for the first time, how do you describe it? First thing I get straight away a lot is, are you an architect? Do you design buildings? Do you design I don't know, industrial equipment and factories and things like that. And I can see why industrial is a questionable name choice. I tend to just say that they're like physical products, things that you can hold, things like phones and speakers and TVs and anything that can solve a problem really. If they're ready to listen or if they're asking for more, I tend to say it's a bit more about like the whole experience from start to finish. I like to think of myself as quite a versatile industrial designer. I know that maybe in industry that's a bit different, but right now at university we sort of learn a bit of everything, and because we've still got time to decide where we want to go really. So I tend to say that it's a bit more versatile and it can cover sort of anything from experience through to sort of manufacturing and things like that. But I know perhaps that will change in the next few years as I start to get more professional experience and, you know, graduate and things like that. So that's what it is right now, but I'm sure it's going to change. Question number 3, what inspirations have developed your ID style? It's a bit of a difficult one because, as I said, I'm still at university. I'm still learning what that is or like how to start developing that. I guess all I've got right now is the sort of house style that I've developed for my portfolio and the kind of things that I like to design. I'd say I'm into sort of consumer products, probably not medical. I like the idea of being a part of the next phase of sort of smart home tech and like developing the connection between sort of people and the space that they live in or the space that they work in different ways. That's what really interests me. So that's the kind of things that I'd like to design. I've also had sort of 4 or 5 years working for Boots. So I do have an interest for like future beauty products and things like skincare and pharmacy as well, and developing retail experiences that sort of cover the whole product story from the point that it leaves or the point that it leaves the shelf all the way through to its disposable end of life. In terms of like an actual style, as I said, I like to think that I spend a lot of time and have put a lot of time in making my own style as well. But that's up to you guys to decide really, if you go look at my Behance on my Instagram or something. But I think in terms of me as a designer, my style is quite hands-on, definitely more from an approach of let's not miss any ideas. I'd rather sketch like 80 sheets in a couple of hours and just reel off absolutely loads, no matter what quality they are, as long as they're descriptive, rather than spend 2 hours doing one pretty sketch when you've missed so many different ideas. So from that sort of side of things, that's how I am really. Question 4, which company would you like to design a product for? So I guess Apple are probably the big one there for me. I don't know if it can get much better than that really. The ability to solve problems on a platform for so many people and just be part of a design team that do so much. The opportunity to innovate for literally billions of people, crazy, mind-blowing. I mean, I love like premium sort of consumer products, so I guess brands like Bang & Olufsen or I don't know, something or like IKEA or something like that would be pretty awesome. I don't really know, I like a lot of stuff, so it's really difficult to nail it down to a few. Of course, there are so many different people and so many different brands that I'd love to collaborate with and work for. Yeah. Question 5, what is your go-to industrial design program? This is another really tricky one because I'm like constantly between loads of them. I couldn't nail down which one. I can tell you what are my go-tos for specific things probably. So for CAD, I use SolidWorks, purely just because this is what I was taught at university. I think it works well, it's good for what I need it for currently. Rendering, it's going to be KeyShot. I think there's just so many resources available to learn it and be constantly improving with it. And it's pretty fun to get pretty good results quite quickly. Yeah, I'm sure that there are others out there, but this is just the one I've had exposure to. And it was good because that was one that I was sort of taught by my peers. It's not actually taught at my university. So I learned that mostly from a good friend of mine, Callum Beale. Check out his stuff as well. He does pretty awesome stuff on Instagram and on Behance as well. In terms of putting together portfolios and stuff, it's got to be Adobe Creative Suite. So Illustrator for sort of graphics and things like that. I use InDesign for all of my portfolio stuff. Every sort of bit of presentation work I put together, I do it on that, just because I know it to as well as I need it to work. And then for sketching and that, I really love sketching on paper still. Can't beat sketching with some pens and markers on paper. I just really see value in getting stuff down quickly, so I wouldn't tend to ideate on an iPad, but I do see value in doing nice presentation sketches or digital renders as well. Even just for fun, I'd use something like Procreate or Sketchbook Pro. They're just really good, powerful, intuitive softwares for the iPad, and I'd recommend them to anyone. So question number 6 is, what do you dislike the most about industrial design? I've actually filmed this one about 3 times and just went on rambling on about sort of personal experiences and stuff, and I'm just going to keep it brief and say I'm going to talk about the industrial design education system because that's what I'm in right now at university. I couldn't possibly comment on industrial design in industry because I just don't have that experience yet. So, what do I dislike most about the industrial design education system? And I would say the support for students during creative lows. A lot of people obviously come in and out of creative highs and creative lows. That's just what happens in the creative industry, where some days you wake up and you feel uninspired, you can't get any ideas out of your head and communicate them properly. And sometimes I feel like there's not a tolerance for that. I know especially during lockdown, and this would be for everyone I guess in the creative field, like working from home and trying to complete deadlines from home where there's not really any tolerance or any changes was difficult, especially when usually you'd be able to tap your mate on the shoulder and say, hey, can you have a look at this? Can I get a second opinion? What do you think to this? And this became so much more difficult. Sometimes during those situations where you're in a low already and you get some feedback that isn't particularly constructive, you can really take it home with you. I think that's one of my biggest sort of dislikes about the industrial design industry, is that it's not like your typical 9-to-5 office job. You know, you really take your work home with you. And I guess that's something as a young designer that I've just got to learn to deal with, and I guess like improve dealing with it myself, how to get out of these creative lows where you feel uninspired. But I definitely wish that there was more support for that in the education system, understanding as a young designer when I go to industry where my place is going to be in a business. So that's what I dislike about the industrial design education system. But I would say on the most part, it's pretty fun. And if you're considering studying industrial design, do it. It's very fun for the most part, as any creative industry is. And question 7, the final question, what makes industrial design good? This is a very subjective question and people might dislike my answer because everyone has their own conception of what industrial design is and what good design is as well. For me, good design is solving a problem, but also in a way that means it sells, that it actually improves something for someone, that it looks good as well, and that everything is really considered and responsible as well. I think that's a big thing. Designing responsibly. You think every single bit of plastic that's in landfill has probably been designed by someone who didn't think about what happened after the product's use. So I think that we've really got a responsibility now that good design should be responsible, and that we should really think about it at every single stage of its life cycle. And with that comes thinking about product experiences, developing it from the moment it leaves the shelf to the moment it's finished. That bit in between, what emotional relationship does the product have with a consumer? How can you use things like form, function, color, material, finish to really build this emotional relationship with a consumer so that maybe they wouldn't want to throw it away. You know, maybe they'd want to replace parts, or maybe it gets better with age, or anything like that. I think that good design is really about that. How can we use experiences and emotions to make a product more responsible ultimately? And then obviously, like, there's the side of innovation and, you know, how can we actually push technology as a human race as well, and work that into everyday products that everyday people can use. Technically they're pushing technology forward for the human race without even really knowing it. I think that's what good design is. But of course that's subjective, and my opinion of that is always changing, as is the opinion of everybody else is always changing as well, because that's the good thing about it. So that's it. That is my industrial design 7 questions finished. I hope that these were insightful in any way possible about me or about what it's like to be an industrial design student. I hope you enjoyed this. I should be doing some more stuff soon. I'm about to move to London, so there might be a bit of a delay on that, but take care ultimately, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.